A town hall in Tyler is bringing leaders and residents together to address gun violence in their community and push for some real solutions. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, this meeting comes after this 5-year-old Josiah Williams was shot in the head. You may remember at a North Tyler apartment complex. KLTV7's April Peardon, she was in that meeting. Tonight she's sharing how Josiah's mom is preparing to bring her son home from rehab as East Texans are discussing how to create some safer neighborhoods.
We have work to do, community.
Action took center stage in Tyler as community leaders and residents gathered, ready to turn ideas into real solutions when it comes to gun violence and peace in their communities.
Baby Josiah was really the catalyst that makes us all stop and take pause to what exactly is happening with this generation that feels as though they can commit these violent acts within a residential space.
It's been nearly 2 months since Josiah Williams was shot in the head on May 29th at the Victory Park Apartments in Tyler.
Replaying the night of May the 29th in my head every time I close my eyes. But for him to be that sacrifice, to share his testimony, to have people come together, it means a lot.
Community leaders and residents shared possible solutions, saying real change starts at home.
Solutions perhaps is mentoring. I think mentoring never goes away.
And one by one, as people voiced their thoughts, ideas were written on a whiteboard.
It's about preventing crimes. So we have to get out on the front end of it and really be proactive. And so ways that we can do that, from the city's perspective, is strong partnerships with the community.
Ashley says she hopes the town hall leads to real action to protect other children and families.
I'm looking forward to the actions after this meeting and seeing what we can come together as a community to do to save the next baby and help the next family and hopefully prevent it from happening to another family.
April Peardon, KLTV 7 News.
Ashley Williams says she's preparing to bring her son home from rehab. That'll be on July the 30th. Now, when he returns, they'll celebrate August 1st with the Welcome Home Superhero Block Party. We'll tell you more about that when we get closer to that July 30th.